Yeah, that's why I think like our prep wasn't as good as it could have been.
Joined by Contractz after an unfortunate defeat to FlyQuest. Especially game four, felt like you guys had the game in your hands. But I will say, at least for NRG's side, you guys looked a lot better than when like week seven or even week six. So can you talk to me maybe a little bit before the games about how your practice went this past week and why maybe you look a little bit better or cleaner?
Um, I mean, I think overall, uh, we were able to just approach practice with like pretty clear goals in mind. Um, and we were able to prep pretty well for FlyQuest, and also with the patch change as well. I think it kind of plays more into our strengths quite a bit more. Um, with like Azir being buffed, Wukong a little bit, Ivern, Senna. These champs are just like pretty good. Um, I do think our prep was not as great as it could have been. Um, but overall, I think like we're just making pretty big strides as a team in terms of how we want to play the map and just our overall flow of like early game into mid game. I feel like it's a lot more structured now, and we have a pretty clear idea on like how to connect with each other. Um, but I mean, this was like our full week with like after our COVID situation, so we were able to kind of just get more into a flow. Like we were screened from home and had COVID for about like a week and a half. So just getting back into the groove of things, and we're able to, just try our best for this week.
I'm glad you guys feel better. Yeah, I think three of you guys, or maybe even four, didn't play on stage last week.
Yeah, it was Dokla, me, and Huhi.
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys feel better. I do want to ask you about what you said about the meta. We've seen Ivern a lot, even before this patch. And then we saw NRG ban Senna every single game, even on Blue's side, which was very strange considering FBI is a good Senna player.
Yeah, that's why I think like our prep wasn't as good as it could have been. Senna pretty fucking broken champion. I won't lie. But I don't think we were quite comfortable and confident in drafting it. But I think over the next week we're definitely going to try to get a better read of what we can do and what we can pick. So
Yeah, even on the analyst desk, they were saying like this is NRG patch because they did mention Senna and then they mentioned Azir, but you guys didn't play Azir this season. You picked Corki into it, I think.
we picked it game one.
Oh yeah, game one you played it, and then
Yeah,
you played Corki
kind of
after.
dropped off a little bit after that.
Um, you guys played Dignitas and lost 2-0, if I'm not mistaken, and or yeah, you guys are facing Dignitas next week. Do you you watched their game? I should start with that. You watched their game yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Does that inspire any confidence in you guys, or is that like? I'm just wondering from an opponent's perspective. You see them do that, you're like, oh, they're having a bad day, or like, oh, this can be so free.
No, I mean no team is free, no matter how poor you've looked throughout the split. Even last week we looked terrible versus Team Liquid. This week we looked a little bit better. Like on any given in NFL they got a thing. Any given Sunday, any team can win. So any given match, that team could show up that day. We could not show up that day. You just got to go into it confident and ready for your game plan, and definitely don't underestimate any team for sure.
Over this year, what do you feel like has been NRG's biggest struggle? Because it feels like there have been a lot of things that I was talking to someone yesterday, and it was like, what has NRG sorry, what has NRG improved on this past like split, maybe even year? And it feels like up until today, it was nothing. So I kind of want to get your perspective, someone who's actually going through the entire year. Like, what have you guys struggled with this year?
Just staying consistent. I think we're a very streaky team. We'll have weeks of like when our practice is going up, we look pretty good on stage versus like IMT or like we had some pretty decent games for FlyQuest in like week two, and then we kind of hit a little bump. We start going down and down, and then we lose these concepts that we were first like once worked on, and then it's kind of like just kind of like a pattern. It feels of just like up and down, and we just haven't really been able to keep the stride going upwards. But I think this series was a good first step towards going up, and I mean I think we just have to just keep on improving on the concepts that we struggle at, and I think it's mostly around mid game. I think we get a little bit dizzy when the game is a little bit chaotic and um, we're not like prepping like a plan or like too aware of what the enemy can do on this timer, and we just need to think a little bit more into the future when we plan a mid game.
Speaking of plans, was game two plan just like make some bear meat and just kill the volley bear over and over and over? Because that's what it seemed like.
No, honestly, I think game two, me and Dokla had pretty good um, game plan around how to play around his lane and tracking enemy jungle. Feel like we just knew what their jungler and what their jungler was going to do pretty much for the first like 10 minutes of the game, and we played well and path around that accordingly. So pretty simple game plan, honestly. But yeah, he was bare me that game. But then he gave us the Darius the next game. So what can we do?
How do you prep for something like that where you're just like, man, they could be playing anything at any time, and it's so frustrating to. I guess they're the sort of thematic, and it's like a bruiser or a tank, but each champion has their own flavor.
Yeah, I mean, Whippo has always been a player that'll pull out the wacky stuff, and that's just something that you have to be prepared for. And um, it's definitely a little bit of a curveball for sure because you're not really too used to playing versus these champs. So, um, but I mean, he plays it well, and it's a style. And I respect that. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the end, it's just about being confident in our game plan.
The beginning of this year, when Spring Split started, you guys were like the anime characters. I remember there was like a trailer for the LCS, a hype video, and it was like the thumbnail was you like going gear forth or something, and it was like all about NRG, and they're gonna prove it wasn't a fluke, and you guys were like the main characters. Now Team Liquid are the main characters, but like you guys are still there. People have doubted you. I think maybe your stock went up a little bit after today, especially how we saw Dignitas yesterday. But give me your best pitch for why we should rekindle that faith in NRG.
I mean, summer playoffs is when we turned it on last time, right? So, um, I think this playoffs is going to be when we turn it on again, and we're definitely going to be quite a team to fear. I think in the lower bracket for sure.
And then a couple of predictions. Who do you think will win between C9 and FlyQuest?
I think C9 will this one.
Oh, okay. Like a 3-0 or close?
It'll probably be like either 3-0, 3-1. Yeah.
All right. And then I'm assuming you have 100 losing to Team Liquid?
I think it'll be closer than people expect. I think Team Liquid will definitely still come out on top, but don't be surprised when 100 Thieves looks pretty dang good.
And then lastly, what I wanted to ask, C9 versus Team Liquid, upper bracket final. Who do you think takes it and goes to?
I think TL just has such good fundamentals of the game that they're just so consistent on playing mid game. It's like no matter if they're behind 3k gold, whatever it is, they play around vision and tempo very well. So I feel like TL will probably just take that.
All right, I'll throw in one last question at the end because you mentioned about like their consistency. Is that something you noticed from them in scrims as well? Like they're able to consistently, play super disciplined and having those fundamentals?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say so. I don't think they're the strongest team we've scrimmed this split, but they're very, very consistent in what they do for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the interview, and I will be extra cheering for you guys against Dignitas, just because I might not be an NRG fan, but I'm definitely a Dig hater. So.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
CLG or NRG now really need to defend the faith. I don't got no faith, but who knows? At least I do think they'll beat Dignitas. It's always fun talking to Contractz, and yeah, the whole NRG crew is very hard to get a read on them. Like, they never seem worried. They never seem like confused. Like, Palafox can have some really stinker games and just afterwards be chilling. I don't know. Like, maybe obviously it's media training. They want to seem confident in front of people, but sometimes you can kind of sort of get a vibe of a player if they didn't play well or if they played extra well. But with NRG guys, I don't know. I it's difficult to get my pulse on the players themselves. But yeah, I wanted to say that you guys should hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 2,500 before the end of the year. It's been a really cool road this past year. I know I lost like close to 40-ish subs ever since the past 3 weeks when I started my Disputing Everything show. People don't like hot takes, but it's fine. I'm not too worried about that. I gained more than 40. I think I'm like plus 46, minus 40 at the same time. So it's like plus 6 overall, which is cool. But yeah, thanks everyone who's watching, and make sure to hit that sub button.